Imagine having a McLaren F1 worth 20 million pounds sitting in your garage. And then you sell it. Not because you're broke, but because it's too expensive to actually drive. That's exactly what Gordon Murray did, the man who designed that very car.
Yeah.
The engineering has to be fantastic, the styling has to be beautiful and timeless, and the car has to be the best car on the planet to drive, full stop.
But here's where it gets really crazy. Instead of buying a Bugatti or a Pagani, he invested his money in cars that most people would consider junk. We're talking about a Hillman Imp, a Fiat 500, and a damn BMW 700. Today, I'm going to show you the most incredible car collection you've never heard of. My dear car enthusiasts, welcome to a very special video. Today, we're not talking about sheikhs with 1,000 Ferraris or rappers with gold-plated Lamborghinis. We're talking about two men who own car collections so thoughtful, so passionate, and so damn unique that they put everything you've seen before to shame. If you've enjoyed the video so far, hit that like button now and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. Let's start with Mark Knopfler. Number 10 on our list of the world's most expensive car collections, but by far one of the most interesting. Knopfler collection is estimated at around $15 million. But it's not about sheer numbers here. It's about quality. Every single car in his garage tells a story. The crown jewel of his collection is a 1955 Maserati 300S. This car is worth between $3 and $6 million, and there's a damn good reason for that. Only 26 were ever built. 26. That's fewer than the number of people who came to my last birthday party. This Maserati was a race car, built to win, and Mark owns one of them. But here's where it gets really interesting. Mark didn't just take his money and buy the most expensive cars he could find. No, he bought cars that mean something to him. His 1963 Aston Martin DB5, for example. He bought this car together with his bandmate John Ilsley with their very first royalties from Dire Straits. Imagine that. The band had just landed their first hit, and instead of blowing the money, they buy themselves a DB5. That's the kind of decision you make when you truly have gasoline in your blood. The DB5 is worth about $1 million today, but for Mark, it's not about the money. It's about the memory. It's about this car being a symbol of the success he and his band worked hard to achieve. And that's exactly what makes his collection so special. Every car has a story. Then we have his 1978 Aston Martin 8 Vantage. This car is a British muscle car from the late 70s, and it's absolutely brutal. We're talking about a car that was built to destroy everything in its path on the highway. Today it's worth about $150,000, but for Mark, it's priceless. And then there's his Austin Healey 100S from the 60s, a classic British sports car with racing history. Mark has a soft spot for British classics, and you can see that in his collection. These aren't show-off cars. These are cars you drive, cars you love, cars you appreciate. What makes Mark's collection so special isn't just the money, but the passion. These cars aren't garage queens, just collecting dust. Mark actually drives these machines, and you can tell he truly loves every single one of them. But now it gets really crazy. Now we're talking about Gordon Murray. And folks, if you think Mark's collection is interesting, buckle up, because Gordon's collection is on a completely different level. Gordon Murray is a living legend. The man designed the McLaren F1, one of the greatest cars of all time. He worked for Brabham in Formula One. He built race cars that made history. And his car collection? It's the exact opposite of what you'd expect. Gordon calls his collection the Car Cave, and it houses about 35 cars. But here's the kicker. All of these cars weigh less than 900 kilograms. 900 kilograms. That's less than a modern VW Golf. Gordon has a philosophy, and that philosophy is lightweight construction is everything. While other collectors buy Bugattis and Paganis that weigh over 2 tons, Gordon collects cars so light you could almost push them away. And that's no accident. Gordon believes that the true driving experience doesn't come from horsepower, but from weight. Or rather, from the lack of weight. His current daily driver is an Alpine A110. Not a McLaren, not a Ferrari. An Alpine. And you know what? He sold his own McLaren F1. Yes, you heard that right. The man who designed the McLaren F1 sold his own. Why? Because the insurance was £20 million, and he couldn't drive it anymore without worrying. So he sold it and invested the money in his company and in cars he can actually drive. Let's talk about his collection. Gordon is a huge Lotus fan, and you can see that immediately. He owns a 1970 Lotus Elan S4 that he's had for over 20 years. Then there's a Lotus Elite, a Lotus 7, a Lotus 11, and a Lotus Europa twin cam. For Gordon, Lotus embodies his philosophy: light, agile, driver-focused. But it's not just about Lotus. Gordon also owns a 1964 Hillman Imp. Yes, a Hillman Imp. Most people would consider this car junk, but for Gordon, it's a masterpiece of lightweight construction. Then there's an original Fiat 500, an original Mini, and a 1961 BMW 700. These are cars that most collectors wouldn't even look at, but for Gordon, they're perfect. And then it gets really historical. Gordon owns a 1951 Mark IV Cooper 500, a Formula 3 race car. He owns a Brabham BT 44B, a Formula 1 car from his own design era. He owns a 1972 Le Mans 3.0-liter prototype that he built for Alain de Cadenet, and he owns his very first race car, which he designed and built himself at age 18, based on a 105 E Anglia. This isn't just a car collection. This is a living museum of automotive history, curated by one of the greatest car designers of all time. But Gordon doesn't just collect old cars. He also owns a 1993 light car company Rocket, which he designed himself. This car is basically a Formula 1 car for the street. Then there's a Porsche 550 Spider, a De Tomaso Vallelunga, and a 1966 Ford Cortina GT. And of course, he owns his own modern creations. The Gordon Murray Automotive T50, the T50's Niki Lauda, and the T33, as well as the T33 Spider. The T50 is Gordon's latest creation, and it's basically the spiritual successor to the McLaren F1. It weighs only 980 kilograms, has a naturally aspirated V12 engine, and is the purest driving experience money can buy. Only 100 will be built, and they cost about £2.5 million each. But for Gordon, it's not about the money. It's about building the perfect car. What makes Gordon's collection so special is his philosophy. He doesn't collect cars to show off. He collects cars that embody his design philosophy: lightweight construction, driver focus, purity. While other collectors buy heavy supercars, Gordon prefers small, agile cars that offer a real driving experience. And here's the point I want to make. Both Mark Knopfler and Gordon Murray have collections worth millions. But neither of them collects to show off. They collect because they truly love cars. They collect cars that tell a story, cars that have meaning, cars that offer a real driving experience. Mark collects British classics and Italian race cars because they remind him of the successes of his career. Gordon collects lightweight, driver-focused cars because they embody his design philosophy. Both men have understood that cars aren't about horsepower numbers or top speeds. It's about the feeling they convey. And that's something many modern collectors have forgotten. They buy cars because they're expensive, because they're rare, because they look good on Instagram. But Mark and Gordon buy cars because they love them. And that's the difference between a good collection and a great collection. Let's talk once more about Gordon's decision to sell his McLaren F1. That's one of the most interesting decisions a collector has ever made. The man designed the car. It's his baby. And he sold it because he couldn't drive it anymore. That shows you what Gordon is really about. It's not about having the most expensive car in the garage. It's about having cars you can drive, cars you can enjoy, cars you can love. And that's a lesson we can all learn. It doesn't matter how much a car costs. It doesn't matter how rare it is. What matters is whether it brings you joy, whether it puts a smile on your face when you start the engine, whether it makes you feel alive when you drive through the curves. Mark Knopfler and Gordon Murray have understood that. Their collections aren't just accumulations of expensive cars. They're expressions of their personality, their passion, their love for the automobile. And that's what makes them so special. When you look at Mark's collection, you see a man who appreciates British elegance and Italian passion. When you look at Gordon's collection, you see a man who values lightweight construction and driver focus above all else. Both collections are a reflection of their owners. And that's what makes a great collection. There are so many collectors out there who simply buy the most expensive cars they can find. They buy Bugattis, Paganis, Koenigsegg's because they're expensive, because they're rare, because they look good on social media. But they don't understand what it's really about. They don't understand that a car is more than just a status symbol. A car is an experience. A car is an emotion. A car is a connection between man and machine. Mark and Gordon have understood that, and that's why their collections are so much more interesting than those of a sheikh with 1,000 Ferraris rotting in a warehouse. Mark drives his cars. Gordon drives his cars. They enjoy them. They appreciate them. They love them. And that's the difference. I want to tell you a story. When Gordon sold his McLaren F1, many people said he was crazy. How can you sell the car you designed yourself? How can you sell a car worth £20 million? But Gordon did it because he understood that a car you can't drive isn't a car. It's a sculpture. It's a work of art. But it's not a car. And that's the lesson we can all learn. Cars are meant to be driven. They're meant to be enjoyed. They're meant to bring us joy. And when a car no longer does that, then it's time to let it go. Gordon took his money and invested in cars he can drive. Cars that bring him joy. Cars that embody his philosophy. And that's what makes a true car lover. Mark Knopfler did the same thing. He didn't just buy the most expensive cars he could find. He bought cars that mean something to him. Cars that tell a story. Cars that remind him of important moments in his life. And that's what makes his collection so special. When I look at these two collections, I see two men who have understood what it's really about. It's not about money. It's not about status. It's about passion. It's about love. It's about the connection between man and machine. And that's something that's often lost in today's world. We live in a time where everything is about social media, about likes, about followers, about reputation. But Mark and Gordon remind us that it's about more. It's about doing what you love. It's about collecting what brings you joy. It's about being authentic. Their collections aren't perfect. They're not the most expensive. They're not the biggest. But they're real. They're authentic. They're an expression of who these men are. And that's what makes them so damn special. So, my dear car enthusiasts, which collection impressed you the most? Would you rather have Mark's focused collection of British and Italian classics, or Gordon's huge collection of lightweight driver-focused cars? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of the most extraordinary car collections, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell, because we have so much more incredible automotive content for you. And trust me, you don't want to miss it.